Welcome everybody, Shazil here. In this video, we're going to be talking about the difference between a software engineering degree and a computer science degree. For the rest of this video, what we'll do is we'll call the software engineering degree the SE degree and the computer science degree the CS degree, just so we don't have to say the whole term every single time. The first thing that's worth noting is that a software engineering degree, or the SE degree, awards you with a Bachelor of Engineering degree, whereas a CS degree awards you with a Bachelor of Science. Now, in terms of the curriculum and the subjects that you actually study, there's going to be a lot of overlap, but also some differences. Typically, what happens in your first year of an SE degree, you'll typically take a lot of traditional engineering courses and not so much dive into actual software stuff. You might have a course on introductory programming in a language like Python or Java, but what you'll mostly be doing in your first year in an SE degree is just taking traditional engineering courses. So these would be courses on classical mechanics, which is basically physics. You'll have courses on circuits, chemistry, waves and electricity. You'll have calculus 1 and 2, linear algebra, whereas a CS degree won't really have most of those things. CS students do take Calc 1, Calc 2, linear algebra, but they don't take any of those sciences and circuit courses, and they'll dive right into the programming stuff in their first year, and they'll start touching on discrete math, logic, and that sort of thing. Now, in your second year is probably where there's going to be the most overlap between the two degrees. So in your second year, both degrees will focus heavily on discrete math, computer architecture, data structures and algorithms, object-oriented programming, assembly language, using Unix commands, and things like that. Now, the differences really arise past second year and really in your upper years. So typically what happens is that in your upper years, the CS degree will focus more on the theoretical side of things. You'll typically take more advanced courses on things like automata theory and discrete math and logic and advanced algorithms and compilers, whereas an SE degree in your upper years will focus more on the practical side of things. In the upper years of an SE degree, you'll be focusing more on courses that have to do with software requirements and software testing, software documentation, software project management. You'll probably have courses where you learn different methodologies like Agile and Scrum, and even different tools that help you do software project management. In addition to that, you'll also have to take courses on digital logic, which basically has to do with how transistors work, logic gates, and how computers perform arithmetic under the hood. You'll also have to take courses on control systems and also signal processing. There isn't much flexibility when it comes to electives in your upper years for an SE degree, so your degree is mostly already laid out for you, whereas a CS degree does give you more freedom in your upper years and you have more flexibility and you can pick from a wide array of interests, and you basically have more flexibility there. Now, in terms of the cost, an SE degree is typically more expensive because it is an engineering degree, and a lot of the courses that you take have lab components and tutorial components which cost the university more money. So for my SE degree from McMaster University in Canada, I paid a total of 80,963 Canadian dollars, which is about 63,400 USD. Now, of course, I didn't pay this full amount. There's scholarships, loans, grants, bursaries, and that whole thing. I also did internships and worked part-time. My CS friends at the same university at McMaster paid about half of what I did. Now, in terms of job prospects, I would say there's basically no difference between the two. I did internships at small startups and big tech companies, and many of my CS friends also did internships at the same companies and very similar companies, basically doing the same thing. Now, it's worth pointing out that you don't actually need an SE degree to become a software engineer or work as a software engineer. Most software engineers actually have a CS degree. Now, of course, there might be those one-off cases where a particular recruiter or a hiring manager might be biased and they might think that a candidate with an SE degree is better off than a candidate who has a CS degree, or vice versa. But those are generally more of the exception rather than the norm, and it's not really something you have to worry about. So the final logical question that you might have is, which one should you pick? Don't take this as career advice or base a major decision off of this. This is just my opinion. But I would say that if you want the cheaper way out, and you want a lighter course load, and you want more flexibility in terms of the subjects that you can actually pick from at university, and you want to actually enjoy your time in university and not just be studying away all the time, I would go with CS. The other reason that this is important is because the other thing you're going to be doing in a software career, especially when you're in university, you're going to be spending a lot of time outside of the classroom working on projects and learning different languages and technologies and padding up your resume so that you can actually apply for jobs and internships. And you're also going to be spending a lot of time preparing for technical interviews and doing things like lead code, which are also really important, and they're really time consuming. With a CS degree, because you do have a lighter course load, it makes it easier to squeeze in those extracurriculars and things that you have to do outside of the classroom, whereas an SE degree has a much higher course load, it's much more demanding, And so it makes it really hard to focus on those extracurriculars and do lead code and work on projects outside of the classroom. However, I will say that if you really want to push yourself, learn as much as you possibly can, and you want to come out more well-rounded, then I would go with SE. But again, you have to know that there is an associated cost that you're going to pay for that, and it's up to you to decide whether or not that trade-off is worth it.